drives like it's falling apart. All the body panels are not secure. It's just falling apart, and they had to fix that. This is a later E-type that was being tested. And see this part right here. I was talking to somebody about that before the dinner. That was the release for the bonnet or the hood that came up. And those cars now that have the key to open that latch are more valuable than the other cars because that's early. That's one of the quirks of classic car pricing, for one thing. When the E-type was taking shape, and Sir William Lyons came into the sawmill and looked at it, and he looked at some other cars that were being developed, some sedans, and he just walked right by the E-type. And Sawyer thought that he just didn't care for it at all. And Lyons told me, he said, I didn't know whether I cared for it at all. But one thing he did want, and that was to put a top on the car to make it a coupe. And he made that suggestion. And as long as that was there, and that was from Lyons' suggestion, then he felt like he had ownership of the design. One thing he absolutely hated was the rear end of the E-type. He said that was indecent. And he wanted it more covered up than it is. That was one time that where there was a disagreement and Lyons lost, because this pretty much stayed the same all the way through the series 1, 2, and 3. Am I consistently blocking somebody?
You're doing great.
Oh, you're still standing up. This is showing the roof of the E-type, and it is a beautiful car. I think Lyons' suggestion that they have this integral top was right on the money with this. There was a detachable top that you could get for the convertible, the hard top made out of plastic. And that looks pretty good too, but not like this. This was the 2+2. So there you see little kids in the back. And they must be little kids with no legs, but I had one of these. I loved that car. I only rode in the back of it once, but it was an incredible car. When you were driving that car down the road and everything on it was working, Bob, you felt like you had total control of it. I've driven. I'm a very simple person. I drove a Porsche for a little while, and I never liked it because it was like being on a ball bearing. Everything was all straight, no problems, and nothing to worry about at all. But with the Jaguar, you were in total control of this machine. And I was up near the St. Lawrence, and I was approaching a bridge, and I was by myself, and there was nobody around. And I was totally ignorant of the importance of having tires. And I went 122 miles an hour in it, approaching the bridge. just to see if I could do it. And I'm still here. I didn't, that's, my tires probably were not designed for that speed. This rear independent suspension was carefully calibrated over months and years to get where they were going. And this frame, this in the semi-monocoque construction, was all bolted onto this, and it was really solid. However, there is a case I read about, and a lot of you know that I'm a scientist, and I'm often given stacks of things to look at that I don't want to look at, like autopsies and crap like that. And there was, and I had read about this, but I didn't believe this ever happened. One big problem with the XKE is that it has certain areas where rust can really be there, and you don't know about it. You really have to be careful about that. And I had read about a guy going around a mountain curve, and the engine kept going over the cliff, and the body and the monocoque part back here was just on the road. And the guy, well, the papers, the autopsies I had to look at was the guy sitting behind the wheel, and he was by himself too, you know. So that's one of the minuses in the Jaguar XKE, is these hidden rust places. One thing I really loved about this car was the engine. I really liked to see it. It was just beautiful, and you could feel the power when that thing was on. However, my wife and I were going down the back country road one afternoon. It was sunny Sunday afternoon, that's what it was. And we hit a big puddle. And all the water that we hit, I think all the water, wasn't a drip anywhere else, all the water that we had went up under the hood and into this valley in the middle here. And it just drowned it out, everything. Luckily, we had a little baby in the back seat, and she had to have diapers, and we took the diapers out of the glove compartment and just laid them in that little valley, and just soaked it up, and we were on our way. So that's one thing I recommend in your glove compartment if you have that engine. Now this is part of the factory that's bench testing engines for the XK120, but for the XKE it's almost the same thing. But I wanted to show you how intensely how intense that operation was. And one of the things that really gets me, and I talked to Sir William about this several times, is I couldn't believe how few people were working at Jaguar and compared to General Motors or Ford. And it was, of course, they had a smaller number of cars too, but you still have all of these components that have to all come together at the same time. For instance, these are what they call the bonnets or the hoods coming down the assembly line to be mounted on the chassis. One of the things that Sayer did consistently in all of his design work was work out every problem as the steps progressed. This was to go from just having the coupe cabin to having the 2+2 cabin. And there were a lot of calculations and concerns that had to be worked out before. This is the last XKE, and the reason I'm repeating this picture here, that this is all the people who worked in these different sections of the factory. Lyons died at a bad point because he had to deal with British Leyland and the British corporate structure, and he was losing control, and